Hello, I'm Zach Kaufman, Manager of Transportation Planning and Programming for the Baltimore Regional Transportation Board. On behalf of the BRTB, I do want to welcome members of the Transportation Corps and thank everyone here for your interest in learning more about Region Now 2027 or the draft 2027 to 2030 Transportation Improvement Program, the associated air quality conformity determination, and an update to add the Bay Bridge replacement project to the Long Range Transportation Plan, known as Resilience 2050. These important documents are open for review and public comment through Monday, June 15th. Purpose of this presentation is to give you a chance to learn more about the key projects and funding levels in these documents. So I am joined here by two colleagues from the Baltimore Metropolitan Council. Ms. Nicole Condell will provide a detailed overview of the TIP and a brief overview of the update to Resilience 2050. Ms. Anna Marshall will share information on the air quality conformity determination, and I'll rejoin at the end to describe how you can give public comments. So now I'll turn it over to Nicole.
Thanks, Zach. As mentioned, my name is Nicole Condell, and I am a transportation planner at BMC, managing the Transportation Improvement Program, or TIP. I'll be giving a brief overview of what the TIP is and a broad summary of what's included in the 27 through 30 TIP Region Now 2027. I will share highlights from our publicly available story map that you can take your time looking at later. Info will be shared later on how to get to this. The TIP includes all federally funded and regionally significant projects that have funding over the next 4 fiscal years. Federally funded projects are those that receive funds from either the Federal Highway Administration or Federal Transit Administration. Regionally significant projects are those that may not necessarily be federally funded, but are of regional importance. There are 171 projects in the 27 through 30 TIP Region Now 2027, 4 of which are new. The TIP programs a total of $9.2 billion in federal, state, toll revenue, and local money combined. 42% is federal funding and 12% is state and local funding. Toll revenues account for 46%. Programmed funds go towards all types of transportation projects, including highway, transit, bicycle, and pedestrian, and are focused on operating and maintaining our transportation system. This graphic shows how we group projects in the TIP by category. As you can see, there are 10 different funding categories. This year, the largest category of funding is highway preservation, with about 63% of the TIP, followed by transit preservation at 14%. Highway capacity is next at roughly 6%, followed by commuter rail preservation at 6%. Emission reduction strategy comes in at 5%. Smaller amounts in environmental safety, transit capacity, and so on account for the remainder. You can also see the number of projects in each category. We also show a breakdown of funding by project sponsor or agency. The largest source of programmed funds is through the Maryland Transportation Authority with about $4.27 billion, followed by the State Highway Administration with around $2 billion. You can also see what the other agencies and jurisdictions have programmed. For each agency, the teal color on this chart represents federal funding and the green represents state funding. Orange is from toll revenues and blue is local funding. So here we have a map that shows all the projects in the TIP that can be mapped. If you click on the icon in the lower left corner, it brings up the map legend where you can see what each of the colored dots represents, as well as the lines and the different color shading. For example, the red dots represent highway preservation projects, and the dark purple dots and lines represent transit preservation projects. You can also click on a dot or line, and it will bring up a new window with all of the project information. I mentioned that the map shows projects that can be mapped. There are also a number of regional or area-wide projects that cannot be pinpointed on the map. They are, however, included in the TIP document. Here are some snapshots that I will scroll through of some projects from around the region that I'd like to highlight. The first project is the Odenton Mark Transit Oriented Development Project in Anne Arundel County. This is a project that Anne Arundel County is partnering with MDOT on to develop a multi-phased approach surrounding the Odenton Mark Station. This first phase will construct a 1,000 car garage in place of the current surface parking lots, which will free up space for future TOD development. Again, you can click on the dot and it will bring up a window with all the project information and details. This next project in Howard County, the $25 million Snowden River Parkway from Broken Land Parkway to Oakland Mills Road project. This project will include multimodal improvements such as pathways, sidewalks, crosswalks, and vehicle enhancements. This will include new 10-foot shared use paths in an effort to increase transportation alternatives to public transit. And next up, we have the Maryland Transportation Authority, which will reconstruct the Francis Scott Key Bridge. The new bridge will reconnect I-695 and will allow trucks moving freight to and from the Port of Baltimore a more efficient route. Reconstruction of this bridge is vital to the economic development of the Baltimore region. MDTA expects this project to be complete in 2030. MDTA is also including $18 million for the replacement of the Chesapeake Bay Bridge, a project estimated to cost approximately $17.6 billion and to be complete in 2045. Due to the size and anticipated impacts of this project, the Bay Bridge project is also being added to the BRTB Long Range Transportation Plan. Replacing this bridge will address existing and future capacity needs across the Chesapeake Bay. So, without going into every project, I wanted to let you know that you can also explore projects by category. If you are looking for specific projects that fall under a certain category, such as highways and bridges, you can click on any of the project categories shown. Same thing with the transit projects. I mentioned this earlier, but it's worth repeating that this map only includes transit projects that can be mapped. In other words, much of the transit money in the TIP is for regional projects such as bus repairs, bus purchases, MARC improvements, and others that can't be pinpointed on a map. They are, however, included in the TIP document, just not on the story map. So that's a quick overview of the TIP process and a look at some of the major projects included in Region Now 2027. At this time, I'd like to turn the presentation over to Miss Anna Marshall. Thank you.
Thanks, Nicole. As mentioned, I am Anna Marshall, the Senior Environmental Planner at Baltimore Metropolitan Council, and I lead the air quality conformity determination process for the BRTB. First of all, the Baltimore region does not meet the national standard for ozone, an air pollutant and so it must review its current transportation plans and programs to ensure conformity with the State Air Quality Implementation Plan, also known as the SIP. Ozone or smog is caused by a chemical reaction between sunlight and emissions from cars and trucks. High levels of ozone in the air can trigger health reactions in sensitive populations. The state establishes a plan for how the Baltimore region will achieve ozone standards and sets emission budgets for two pollutants called volatile organic compounds and nitrogen oxides, also known as VOCs and NOx emissions. These are the main contributors to ozone, so they are important to monitor. The air quality conformity document details an analysis of the Baltimore region mobile source emissions as a result of implementing Region Now 2027 and Resilience 2050, the long-range transportation plan. Mobile source emissions come from cars, trucks, buses, and any other gas-powered vehicle that travels on our roads. I'll go over some of the highlights of the document next. So staff from BMC and the Maryland Department of the Environment, or MDE, use the Motor Vehicle Emissions Simulator model, also known as MOVES, to analyze the amount of emissions from vehicle travel associated with the projects in the TIP. The analysis includes socioeconomic forecasts like population, housing, and employment numbers. The document addresses VOCs and NOx emissions, which contribute to ozone pollution. Current data about the types of vehicles, fuel, and weather are used as input into the model. And modeled emissions for the TIP and plan are measuring below the emission budgets set in the state implementation plan. Therefore, implementing the projects in Region Now 2027 and Resilience 2050 will not cause new air quality violations, worsen existing violations, or delay the timely attainment of the National Ambient Air Quality Standards. So this air quality analysis is needed because it's a federal requirement under the Clean Air Act for urban areas that do not meet the standards. And the Baltimore region is currently in a serious non-attainment area for the ozone standard, which was set in 2015. In conclusion, the tables show that implementing the projects in the TIP results in emissions measuring below the budgeted amounts. Check out the specific numbers in the following tables, and you can follow the links in the story map to learn more. Now I'll turn it over to Zach.
Thanks, Anna. So before the TIP and conformity determination can be approved, the public is given the opportunity to review and comment. Over $9 billion worth of transportation investments and improvements are being planned that will shape our region's future for decades to come. So please let us know what you think. There are a few different ways to comment. You can share a comment and take our survey on our Your Region, Your Voice website. If you're interested in the Bay Bridge Plan Amendment and Region Now 2027, you can join us on Thursday, May 28th from 5:30 to 7:30 p.m. at the Queen Anne's County Public Library, Kent Island branch. You can also share your thoughts via email at regionnow@publicinput.com by texting the keyword Region Now to 855-925-2801 and by leaving us a voicemail at 855-925-2801 extension 5035. Comments are welcome through Monday, June 15th, and all of these documents and the amendment to the LRTP will be considered prior. All the comments, rather, will be considered prior to the BRTB vote. The BRTB vote on all of these documents will be on Tuesday, July 28th. So we hope you take some time to review the story map and take our survey at the Your Region, Your Voice website. Also, feel free to contact us if you have any questions. Thanks so much for taking the time to listen tonight.